Welcome to O-Talkin' with Dave. Put your hands together for the pastor of positivity whose glass is always at least half full. Here's Dave.
Hey, how we doing out there? I hope you're great. I hope you're wonderful. I hope you're top shelf like me. Chances are good of that. I know. You know why? Because we live in America. Now, I know. Okay. Before I get all patriotic and crazy, because tomorrow, the day after this comes out, will be the 4th of July. Giddyup. Now, it's crazy to say this, but people listen to this podcast so far in 28 countries and 248 cities across the globe. So I'll try not to be too raw in the sense of USA, 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 every place else sucks. No, not at all. Not at all. Home is home, no matter where you're from. We're not perfect, but I'm proud to call USA home. I would sing God Bless the USA by Ling Greenwood right now, but I was practicing and my dogs and my wife came in and said, don't do that. But one of the things I think when I look at things going on now in the news, and I'm not going to get political, those of you who think I do, well, stop it. I'm going to try my best not to lean one way or the other, because to me, the way I look at the USA right now, it's if you get, let's say, 8 people and you go eat a meal anywhere, you go out to eat, and everybody can agree it's a pretty good meal. Compared to other restaurants, this was pretty good. There's still certain things you would change. I really don't like the green beans. I wish they wouldn't bring that out on the table or do whatever. And you know what? You got the green beans too. Yeah, I really don't like those. Don't get them. The dessert selections, usually pretty good. They were out of the kind of pie I liked. Yeah, okay. So there's things that could improve. Sweet tea. Their tea was a little sweeter than Mama's. Yeah, which is impossible, by the way, because my mom's sweet tea was the sweetest. Anyway, my point is there's always something to improve. There's always something that may not just be right. There's usually something someone else is doing that, you don't want to do. Come on. That's just life anywhere. I just don't like it when people run us down. I don't. I believe, and I believe this for a long time. I heard somebody say it one time, and I'm thinking, okay, I really believe that. It's don't criticize or run something down that you're going to be a part of if you're not trying to change it. Or like a job. If it gets to the point where you can't stand your job, get another job. Don't just stay there and badmouth the place. Or do something to improve it. Don't just sit back and criticize it. The crazy thing is, though, so many things about the USA is you have the right. And I think you should have the right. But come on. So I'm just going to talk about a few things. I'm no historian. Lord knows I'm not a historian. Just ask my history teachers. But I haven't traveled abroad a ton. But I do know enough to where I've lived in a bunch of different states. And some of these states I've lived in at times are like different countries. But let's just remind ourselves, and that's what I'm going to take some time to do today, remind ourselves how good we do have it. Just some of the personal freedoms, and I'm going to go different categories, but just still unrestricted free speech. Here's the thing, we're restricting it a little bit ourselves, but from the government standpoint, speech is protected. Even hate speech, you can say whatever you want. They got crimes or hate crimes, but they're crimes to begin with. But speech, we censor ourselves a little bit. There's certain words that you can't say as freely, but it's not a crime. We correct ourselves. Countries who criticize their leadership in other countries, man, they put you in prison. They can get you killed. You can look that up. But we can say anything we want, even the stuff we don't like, and we wish people didn't say. Here, they have the freedom to say it without penalty from the law or the government. We can protest. Peaceful assembly, a peaceful protest, I guess that depends on who you are, if it's considered peaceful. I'm not talking about riots or burning down buildings. I'm talking about peaceful protest. You can get together with anybody and protest anything you want without fear of being jailed or put in prison in some way or anything. We can organize public protest. You can get a permit to protest publicly. Yeah, many nations, absolutely not. And we forget this. We forget people just disappear and you never see them again. They said the wrong thing. They protested against something they should not have. That is so common. You don't see a lot of the rioting and things like that in other countries because people don't do it because they'll get put in jail. There are consequences, not here. Nope. As long as you don't break the laws, and even sometimes if you do, you have the right to protest. You can say anything you want. We don't back a specific religion with laws. And two, people will debate certain things around this, but really there is no state religion. We got everything. We got everything here. When you open your doors to everybody, they bring their religion with them. But the separation of church and state means that you're not going to be jailed or stoned because of your religion. Or if you're an atheist, you can be an atheist all day long here. Hey, that's all right. Hey, you may have personal conflicts with people, but that is not America. That's people. Other companies and countries, they got laws against blasphemy. Blasphemy against a religion. I don't know of a religion we don't have in the United States. I mean, you have people that can start. In the South, there's a church on every corner, for sure. And then before long, other churches came in. And I'm talking about other religions other than Christianity. When I was in Southern California, everything. There's a mosque, there's a temple, there's whatever. And in Vegas, it's pretty much the same way. So you're exposed to more. You're free to do it here. In some countries, no. It's an established, accepted, mandatory religious. And they have blasphemy laws. Also, in public education, many theocratic countries, meaning they have a set religion, public schools enforce the religious doctrine in school. Public schools in the United States, they don't do that. It's either neutrality or not in there at all. And there's a lot of debate on certain things. Is that founded on Judeo-Christian values or what else is seeping in there? It's more social issues than religion. Not in others. You are taught the theocracy that is chosen. Yeah, not here. Some people think it should be. Freedom. That's what it's about. Religious discrimination, meaning in the United States, there are laws that bar firing someone because of their faith. Any faith. Elsewhere, affiliation with the wrong religion is not only a fireable offense, it's illegal. It's against the law. Not here. We don't have that. We're like banana pudding. Everybody likes banana pudding. Please, some of you don't. But see, I get picky about my banana pudding. I like the vanilla wafers. Sometimes Mom would use graham crackers. They get a little soggy. Vanilla wafers, they hold up a little longer. See, I'm already talking about different banana puddings, just to lighten the mood. Also, you have the right to stop a religion, to stop following a religion, or not practice any religion at all. It's great. Some countries, no, not that way. And then legal abortion access. Previously, federal protections existed around that. Now states can vary. You do it all. In your state, yeah. But the thing is, there are no national abortion laws now. It's by state. Half the world, most of the world, abortion's illegal. Please. But not in America. It depends on now the state that you live in. And honestly, I think it should, because views toward abortion in Alabama are much different than California. Views toward abortion in Northern California are much different than they are in Orange County. That's a problem for the state, but I think it should be up to the state. I actually think it should be up to the people. However, it doesn't matter what I think. In America, you have that freedom to be a part of a community that believes like you do. Women, what voting rights for women? I can't believe it took till 1920. However, in 1920, 105 years ago, women could vote in the United States. Yeah, I don't care what took so long. The fact that, hey, I wasn't here in 1920, so I shouldn't be held hostage to that. I was born in 65, 45 years after women were allowed to vote, so I'm a little tired of hearing about it, honestly. You can vote, go vote. How many that can don't? All right, giddy up. However, women, everybody talks about Switzerland and how great that is. Women couldn't vote in Switzerland until 1971. Kudos. Hey, kudos. However, women have equal voting rights. There are parts of the world where women still can't vote. I've got a whole list of things about women I may or may not cover, but my goodness, if you're a woman, you'd rather be in the United States than a lot of these other countries where, they tell you what to wear, where to go, where you can't go, a lot of stuff going on. Women's rights elsewhere. Some states in some countries, it's bad. You know that. But then still you like to complain a little about it. And I get it. I just complained about banana pudding. And then there's no caste or tribal-based inferiorities legally. And what I mean by that is the Constitution forbids inequity based on your origin. We can't discriminate against you based on your heritage, no matter what it is. No. Now, we want people to scream racism. The country is not racist. Some people in the country surely are racist. I'm not one of them. I've talked about that. It's hard to prove. However, it's not the country. It's not the country. Some people. And I think if you judge any country by some people, there's a lot to improve on. And you can't fix everybody. You can't fix stupid. Racism is stupid. Yeah. I wish we would start calling people that instead of that guy's a racist. No, that guy's stupid. Yeah, it's not as sophisticated. It's not a buzzword. But the U.S. does not hold anybody on a lower level, no matter where you came from, no matter what your origin or your heritage or your race is. And we've done a lot here to make a point by that, legally. And there's a bunch of different legal protections. We talk about the legal status. There's strict scrutiny around race and religious equality. And that's headlines everywhere. Women still lack some protections to a certain point, but it's based on like equal pay. But you can talk about that. What is that? We could talk about that forever. Well, there are some stats around that contradict that based on hours worked, the jobs that they take and don't take. And when you look at all of it, it's not a discrepancy in many cases, and in others, it's not as much as you would think. Now, there are more people and more women getting college degrees than men. They tend to earn more money. However, there are a lot of things that men do, and they start it right out of high school, whether it's a trade or construction. A lot of the jobs women don't want. And you know the argument. However, women, there are no rights given to men that women don't have. There are none. Please email me with these. The thing is, people screw it up, not the country. Don't badmouth the country. It's people. Let's talk about guns. How about that? Maybe we can hit on all the hot topics because I want to point out Our problems are usually with certain people, which we're going to have those problems anywhere. It's people. It's controversial, but Americans can own guns. And we can talk about what did the founding fathers mean in the Second Amendment, what all this stuff. You know what? In other places, no guns. Strict ban on guns. Yeah, Japan, strict ban on guns. Some places in the UK, strict ban on guns. Yeah, we don't have that banned. We don't have banned. Yeah, somebody criticized my dialect the other day, which is mean, by the way. But it wasn't America, it was somebody. I said chess, and then some of the auto things put a T on it, chest. And in the comments, they said, oh, yeah, chest. Dude, it didn't bother me. I thought it was funny. However, what the country does, you have the right. We also have laws. And if you break those laws around guns, well, you may have to pay the consequences. And you get due process if that were to happen. Not only do you get due process, if you can't afford an attorney, we'll give you an attorney to make sure somebody stands up for your rights. The U.S. guarantees counsel. In a lot of countries, you may not even get due process, but they sure aren't going to provide you a lawyer. Wow, we go above and beyond on that. Some countries ban birth control. They ban contraceptives. Can you imagine that in the U.S.? That was a scratch, not a pick. Banning birth control? No, there's certain religions who don't believe in birth control. Cool, don't do it. But as a country, can you imagine if we tried to do that in the U.S.? First of all, it wouldn't work. But to make it illegal or restricted? No. Other countries do that. So let's just jump right into the LGBTQ plus LMNOP rights. Title VII, same-sex marriage. I remember I'm old enough to remember when that wasn't even a thing. Then it became a thing. The U.S. prohibits any discrimination, especially in the workplace, legally in the workplace, against LBTGQ plus. I mess those up sometimes on purpose, but not always. Same-sex relationship, whatever you do, the U.S. prohibits discrimination around that. Now, a lot of you went, no, the U.S. does. You can't discriminate because of that. People can. Businesses can get around it in ways, but the U.S. does not. Some think the U.S. should. Some people like green beans. I don't know. We got child labor laws. Some people don't understand what happens. And child labor, many developing countries, and it's not even developing anymore. That used to be where they did it. China, world's worst as far as child labor. I wouldn't call China a developing country. There are places in it that are still operating like they did however long ago. But we got child labor laws. About children working full time or so many. In the U.S., minors are protected. I remember having to get a work permit to work at 15. And that was just part-time. Grocery store stuff. Please. I was out mowing lawns and doing all sorts of other stuff, but we protect that. And if people who don't, that's against the law. They're breaking the law. And it's for the protection of the children. It's not anti-business. It's protecting children. That's the U.S. Other countries, you don't even want to hear what happens. Those certain companies, you got 8-year-olds making the products that you bought. And don't get me started on hypocrisy. Those who are out protesting certain things, well, let's look at what you're wearing. Where did that come from? Not going to go there. Also, labor union rights, collective bargaining, all of that stuff. That sounds like something for a boardroom conversation. Not universal, but some countries have banned unions. Now, unions started, I think it was a great thing. Unions started as taking up for the worker. that worker who wasn't getting, whether it's insurance or fair pay, or unions have become something far different than just taking up for the worker. However, the United States not only allows them, it promotes unions. You want to take care of that worker. Collective bargaining, let them negotiate it without the federal government getting involved. That's a good thing. Other countries, can you imagine? It's crazy. The right to strike. No, I was part. I think I was when I worked in a grocery store. I was part of a union then, and the thought of going out on strike. Oh, okay, all right. I just wanted to get out of work, honestly, because I was young and silly. I didn't have a family. However, you're not going to do that in some countries. But you strike, you can be arrested in some countries. Yeah, we don't. Not in the USA. No, let's become stronger. If something's wrong, stand up for it and try to fix it. You want the government to fix it? First of all, it's not their job. And second of all, they got enough to work on without them trying to settle a dispute like that. But one thing the government did step in and do with OSHA is safety. Now, that's become a whole nother thing, too. They have crippled a lot of smaller businesses with over-regulation. But that's not the U.S. That's certain people within that. A lot of fraud and deceit going on when you talk about people. Other nations, though, there's no workplace safety whatsoever. I've heard stories about the shipyards in Malaysia. Unbelievable. And that's just one thing that comes to mind. They don't care. You can do whatever you want. Okay, they die at work. Okay, hey, next in line, come on. And you have children, so a lot of times you got double dippers here. Media and information access. Now we're probably more open and free around that than we have been in years. But other countries, they give their people what they want them to hear. They have no access to outside information. They're given a narrative, and that's all they hear. So that's what they believe. You remember when, I think it was the Iraqi war? I think so. I think it was before Iran. But the Iraqi information guy, he was on TV, and they were actually, it's when we were invading and we were bombing the building he was in. And he was saying, we have the infidel surrounded. The place was literally rocking his. We were just destroying everything that we wanted to. Yet he was telling the people, we've got them surrounded. We're doing, and that's what they thought was happening. But the media, if you own the media and those channels and you own information, and we've seen that's been in the news lately about how a slanted media can change public opinion. However, we have freedom to go find the truth here. And I love that. Academic freedom. Now, we can talk back and forth. I took a lot of heat with my thing on is college necessary or does it make sense or what are we doing there? But you have the freedom. And so, to go, if you've got the money and can do whatever you want, you can, the academic freedom to go where you can get accepted. A lot of them, they have special entry requirements for minorities and people in special groups. However, think about it. There have been many educators in other countries, professors, jailed because of what they taught. And a lot of what they taught was the truth. If it's unflattering toward the government, even if it's the truth, boom, put in jail. See that a lot. You don't hear about it a lot, but it happens a lot. To the point to where they don't do it. They just read the company line. They're educating the youth of that country with a false narrative. We may have that here to some degree with certain educators, but we still give everybody access to the truth if they're willing to look for it. And there's no mandatory state TV news. Thank goodness. Now, we have some biased reporting, both sides, but there's no state mandate, meaning the government mandating you go on, you say this true or not, this is what we want. It's very common outside the U.S. And then the same way with publishing. No government control of publishing. Now, some people would bring up, what about these books they're not going to let in our elementary schools? So I think parents need to take care of that. States need to take care of that. I don't think any book should be pushed on schools, not even the Bible, including these books that are what I would say and some would say are inappropriate for elementary schools. What are you doing? So stand up. If parents stand up, okay, you decide what's appropriate. If the majority of parents think that book's okay for a third grader, okay, whatever. I can choose not to let my kid go to that school. But there's no government pushing of specific books on you. No. A lot of governments, they control what's printed. No matter if it's leisure time, whatever, we can't have that book in this country. We can't let that novel in this country. I mean, there's a lot of, especially in the past, where you would have to hoard certain books because that's not allowed. That's forbidden. That's for free thinking countries, and that's not what we are. Do you think about that? What can't we get? I can get just about any book imaginable. It's right now, it's not the morning, but if I order it in the morning, I can have it in the afternoon usually because I got 4 Amazon distribution centers in Vegas. I can probably have it this afternoon. Other countries, they can't get it. It's illegal to own it, to have possession of it. As bad as somebody thinks this country is, at least we don't have to worry about that. All right, let's talk about economics. Economic equality or consumer quality. Healthcare. Now, healthcare is a buzzword, and I'm not going to get into the politics of it. However, if you get to the details of it, everybody can find flaws in it, especially different ages. You know, as I get older, I'm thinking, ooh, I wish it was this way. Well, when I was 30, ooh, I liked it that it wasn't that way. We spend about $13,400 per person, the U.S. does, which is double than other countries our size. And those countries that we spend double that are our size, their life expectancy is still lower than ours. Affordable health care, the problem is not our country. It may be the doctors or the system or pharmaceuticals or just who's running the health care, the administrative side of things. It's not the government. Don't blame the government for that. However, you have your choice. A lot of insurance companies, and you go back to unions and your company. I've had, probably three different insurances in my life. Vastly different. Then a few years ago when we made sweeping changes, my premiums went through the roof and my coverage went down. Was that the government's fault? No, I don't blame the government. Insurance companies decide that, and they have to make money too. There doesn't always have to be the government or the United States as a villain. It can be other things. Also, our wide choice of just what we can buy. Just the different things. And we can buy stuff from U.S. companies, from other companies, all of it. We have choice. Sometimes if you want to wait a little longer, you can get it from anywhere in the world. Other companies don't. You have to buy it from there. Other products from other countries are banned. Now, I know in California, they ban certain products inside of the country. You look at it, and I'm ordering certain things available anywhere but California. Okay. Whatever. It's not the U.S. Standards of products. U.S. companies, they have massive penalties for faulty products. Yeah. We have standards and liability lawsuits. You don't really hear about that. Other countries, that's why you get junk. If it breaks, you're just stuck. It's hey, roll the dice. We have quality standards. Made in USA, baby. Then also standards around like the FDA and FCC, government agencies. They look at the food and the drugs and the communications, all these things, certain standards. It's not overbearing, but we don't want anybody taking advantage of you. And if not, it's not healthy. You can't put this out saying this pill will grow hair and make you look younger and help with your impotence. You can't say that. You can't say that, especially if it's not true. And it wasn't. I bought 4 bottles and nothing. But you can't do that. So other countries don't have that. That's why they can promote that stuff and you can buy it and have it shipped in here because there's no regulation. Regulation is not always bad. It helps protect in many cases. Clean food. The U.S. routinely inspects food, case by case, as it comes in. Sometimes that's what takes so long. Elsewhere, no, it can be contaminated, a lot more common. You look at some of the markets in the United States versus outside the United States. My goodness, it's a night and day because we care. Yeah, but you can't get this and you can't get that. Well, there's usually a reason. Maybe it is an overreach. Yeah. But there's usually a reason. Clean water, the sanitation, all this stuff, we take it for granted because we just always had it. A lot of countries, I go to across our southern border and to the islands from time to time. They're so much better than it was, but still, it's not. They don't have the very expensive legal regulation we do in the United States, but that is to help us. That's to keep our water clean and to keep our sanitation system safe. Airlines. U.S., we've got a just huge variety of airlines. A lot of people will restrict that, and it's because of government control, of course. But it's also to restrict who comes and goes and all different government-mandated things. Isolated and poor countries, they're extremely limited. We don't do that here. Goodness, just go to a large airport, and I used to love it because you go and you'd see planes that are going all over the world that are huge. I'm a Southwest guy, but you see all these different things with all these different countries, and you hear where people are going. It's crazy. A lot of countries forbid that and restrict that. Immigration is a huge thing now in the U.S., which it should be. Other countries aren't that way. They may restrict you leaving. You can't go. A lot of Central and Southern South American countries, you can't go. You're locked inside your country, and others can't come in. And yet we talk about wanting to know who's coming and going. That's wrong. We'll let you come and go. We have laws around it. Others, restrictions. Yeah. We've also done a lot with like our credit and bankruptcy laws. We cap interest rates at a certain level, and we protect people that go through bankruptcy. There's no debtor's prison here. A lot of other places, man, you go in debt, you don't pay your bills, you're going to prison, which is kind of crazy because you sure can't pay your debt in prison. But however, we just take a lot of these things for granted because it's always been that way. Yeah, it's pretty special in that regard. You declare bankruptcy, and those laws change over time, but you don't go to prison because you can't pay your bill. Some people take advantage of that. Also, starting a business here. It's fantastic. There are laws that promote you starting your business. Please start a business. In many countries, no, you can't. They get in your way. What? You're going to start a business? You're going to start making money? That makes you less dependent on us, or they'll tax you to the point to where it doesn't make sense. The freedom to do that, it's great. Clean air. I remember when I would go, remember when it's smoking or non-smoking? I remember before that. It was rolling the dice. Yeah, whatever. There was nobody to see you, but if they did, they may be smoking. You didn't know. And then they put the smoking and non-smoking sections, and then they had that divider that was lattice work. Well, smoke comes right through it. Oh, and the non-smokers would judge the smokers as they went back, almost like people in first class looking at people go to coach. Now, man, most are non-smoking. You can't smoke. Is that right? I don't know. But that's what people wanted. There's certain regulations around clean air. And as we learn more, okay, all right, you go outside and smoke. If I have to smoke that bad, I'll go. I'm not a smoker. I don't have a horse in this race. Disabilities, people with disabilities. I remember when I was younger, man, if being in a wheelchair or being disabled, man, that limited your world from being able to earn a living, to get around and to go do the things you wanted to do. Now, right or wrong, access is mandatory. I know a lot of hotels I stay in, a few years ago, they had to have it to where a pool, you couldn't have a pool unless it had a lift chair to let somebody who was handicapped in there. That may be going too far for some. I don't know. However, elsewhere, you're on your own. There's sure no laws toward that. Some people would say, hey, I like that. I don't want those laws. Until you or a loved one has that situation, I'm sure you would. Yeah. I'm not going to talk about vaccinations. I'm not going to take that bait. However, let's just say there's some things in the past when we provided public access to medicine that prevented a lot of horrible diseases that are not around anymore. And they were prevalent, and you got them, and the diseases went away. Where other countries, you couldn't get them. Very limited capacity to those, if you could get it at all. So we'll just leave that right there. As far as other them, like mental health coverage and stuff like that, elsewhere, man, insurance doesn't cover mental health at all, no matter how much you need it. Now it's almost mandatory, and you look, most companies have free assistance for things. You need somebody to talk to, it's a free hotline, something like that. Other countries, no. Some do, I'm sure. It's not the norm. And your whole food supply chain, there's hardly anything we can't get overnight. From one side of the country to the other. We get everything here. It's inspected. We know it's good. Now, they can't guarantee it's going to be prepared well. But I'm in the middle of the desert, and I can have fresh fish caught yesterday. Yeah. You people live on the coast say that's not fresh. Okay, it's pretty fresh. Then you got other things. Just the mobility. Just around access to public schools and the being able to go to them. You're not limited to where you can go to school. I mean, you have your sections, but if you want to go to a private school, or there's a lot of larger metropolitan areas, you can have your choice. You can go to the same school system from kindergarten through high school. Other parts of the world, they don't even have that. They still put people in this class is for first through third grade. I remember my mom and dad, their entire elementary school was in one room with one teacher. Yeah, that's crazy talk because that was a long time ago. Now, schools are everywhere. They're everywhere. And that's not even considering private schools or homeschooling. You don't have that option in a lot of other countries. Nope, you don't. Student loans. My goodness, the government will give you the money to go to school. You talk about just being able to take university credits and transfer and take those with you. That's just what you do, not in other countries. No, it won't transfer. Everything is centralized and covered. Education is much harder to come by. It's taken for granted or actually neglected here. In most campuses, they're safe. Some here you see protests, but usually that's, you get tired of it sometimes if you're not into that thing because we're older. Protests, what good do they do? They're these young people that are feeling not vigilanteism, it's very strong opinions and they want to change the world and hopefully for good things. So you see some violence at campuses. It's usually a protest or something that looks like violence, and yeah, it can happen. In other countries, going back to the right to say things and do things, oh no, it can't. You'll go to jail. You'll be shot. And those of you who say, well, they shoot people in America, if they're breaking the laws, sometimes you have to do something. But all in all, our campuses are considered safe environments, relatively secure. You can point out Kent State and some other stuff. Okay, that's how long did that happen? And that's still the one you pick up? Yeah, because it doesn't happen very often, and it shouldn't. Also, public libraries. I was going into town the other day, and this massive building is being built. What is that? Oh, is that a new city hall? It's a public library. They're everywhere. In the United States, just about every town, no matter what size, has a public library or a building with a public space. You're going to see that abroad. And the resources they get, it's fantastic. A lot of people don't use those resources. There's a lot of entrepreneurial centers and things like that. I mean, you can go to the public library and you can run a business out of a public library. You've got access to computers. A lot of times you'll have all sorts of stuff that's free. It's part of it. You don't have that in other countries. Also, just the freedom to travel within the country. We don't have any internal checkpoints. Now, unless you're going into California. Yeah, you got the agriculture checkpoint, which is unmanned. I don't know, I guess they had some extra money. I go through it all the time. You just go right through it. I could be going through there with, I forget the comedian that talks about it, but I could go through there with an endangered spider monkey eating an orange. And they wouldn't stop me. However, that's not what you do from state to state other than California. No, you don't have that. You're in America. You're in the U.S. There's no authoritarian states inside of here that's stopping you. Just follow the laws. Just the right to own and drive a car, that middle class affordability. Goodness, I had a car when I was 16. I bought it myself. My granddad's car. You can buy that. In some nations, car ownership is restricted. You got to hit certain rules. A lot of countries, women can't drive. Yeah, the next time the feminists are saying how bad the United States are, okay, you can walk to your next protest. Let's see how quickly you will appreciate the ability to drive. And no, that's not political. It's against feminists. That's how crazy it is. Prohibited to drive. Or they make it so expensive, only the elite can do it. Cars everywhere. You see everybody behind a wheel. I love it. It's fantastic. Some people can drive better than others. Then talk about the Postal Service. Now, the USPS gets a bad rap. I'll tell you that. They do. I mean, they've lost a lot of my stuff. They have. Hey, the fact that you can put a stamp on a letter in San Diego and they'll deliver it to somebody in Maine for, what is it? I don't know. We'll say 50 cents. Phenomenal. And it'll get there in a few days. That's crazy. That's crazy. Or, hey, I'll play 2-day priority. It'll be there in 2 days. I can get next day air. I got all this stuff. The Postal Service is reliable, even in remote areas. It's reliable. And it's relatively cheap. You put competition in there. Okay, if you can do it faster, quicker, that's great. It's wonderful. Infrastructure standards. Everybody talks about the bad roads and infrastructure and all the roads and bridges and oh my goodness, all the construction. Most people now, their state tree is the construction cone. Give me a break. However, there are standards. Those are federally enforced. Yeah, goodness, nothing against you because I know some of you listen, but you go from San Diego into Tijuana, the roads. You go from Tennessee into Alabama, you can tell, but it's still safe. Safe. It may not be to your liking, but neither are green beans, all right? There are standards in the United States. Emergency services, 911. My goodness. The emergency services, it's unbelievable. And I hope you don't have to use it. But if you do, the response is unbelievable. And people will complain if it took them 10 minutes to get here. Wow, what would it have been without that? And a lot of times, it's within 5 minutes. It's incredible. You try that somewhere else. A lot of them don't even have emergency systems. And if they do, they're not nationwide. So just the civil, all the freedoms here. And my point is, and I'm not saying that the people that are listening don't appreciate them, but I think we take them for granted. We forget about it a lot of times. Just the stats on the health care. I said it was $13,400 a person. Most of other, I'll say, civilized countries, which is probably a bad word, but it's half of that. Now, you said, David, some have universal health care. Yeah, but their taxes are such that funds it. Our health care, U.S. spends about $13,400, and it is funded a lot privately. And so we don't have those high taxes. And privately, okay, that's not the government. And yet our life expectancy is about 5 years higher. The women I'm reading stats here, so I'm a little slower, but the 19th Amendment gave them the right to vote. A lot of people don't remember that. It's the 19th Amendment that gives women the right to vote in 1920. 50 countries deny women the right to vote. 50 countries. Free speech, only 25% of Americans believe that our free speech is secure. Our free speech is secure. You can say anything you want to. The government won't punish you. People will. That's biases, it's discrimination, it's all these things, but it's not the government. And just talking about the women, if you think women have it rough in the U.S., yeah, I think women have it rough everywhere, honestly. But a lot of places, women, it's all inequitable. Just outright brutality, legalized violence. Some places, a woman's opinion is half. If she's a witness in a crime, it bears half the weight of a man. There's extreme examples, and we can talk to them. Whether it's Afghanistan or Somalia or Iran, a lot of people taken up for Iran just because of political reasons. If you're a woman, you don't want to go from America to Iran or Saudi Arabia or Pakistan. All these very strong anti-women, and a lot of it is tied to a religion. And these women that stand up for anti-women religions, yeah, maybe you'll get it out of your system. I don't know, but that's not the U.S. We don't do that. And yet I see them protesting and burning flags. It bothers me a little bit, but I just take it as they just don't understand. They're emotional. They're not quite as informed. That's the way it is. There are a lot of practices. In the United States, we have laws that protect the rights of the homeless. Even though some cities, it varies from just the wide open to they really don't put up with it as much. I'm not going to talk about it as far as if you allow someone to remain homeless, is that humane? I think providing shelter and outreach and education and training, that's fantastic. And having public advocates for the homeless, I think it's fantastic. It's a dialogue. It's a problem that needs to be solved. Yeah, and we can disagree on the solution, but it's America. We talk about it. Other countries, no, they'll put them in prison or they'll just run them out of town. It's not allowed. We don't have a homeless problem. And we'll say, in this country, they don't have homeless. And we hold that country up above the United States. No, they put them all in jail or ran them out of town. Is that what you want? Can you imagine the protests if that were to happen? There's so many things. The anti-police stuff, you couldn't have that elsewhere. I can imagine you saying defund the police and throwing things, some of the stuff that happened in LA recently, toward the police in other countries. Oh my goodness. Dead people. That's what you would say. But people wouldn't try it. We give you the right to express yourself here. And however you express yourself, as long as it doesn't break any laws, okay. Other countries, their laws are so prohibitive, you can't express yourself. Violence is not allowed. Yeah. My goodness. In India, you got and I got some people in India. I hear tell me if I'm wrong, forced evictions and just sweeps of urban areas to get rid of the homeless. But I mean, you've got a population problem there. And police, what we would consider very heavy-handed, that's just the norm in other places. A lot of hostile encounters. You got a lack of services in these places. Yeah. It's tough. It's tough. And that's why I'm glad to live here. I mean, there's no system without its challenges. U.S. is far from, there's no place perfect. But also, it's just the way we approach things. We look for a better way. We make mistakes. We make stupid decisions a lot of times. And hopefully we recover from that. But there's some things that it's not, we don't want to silence criticism. I don't like burning the U.S. flag in public. That bothers me. That's why I'm wearing red, white, and blue. I don't like that, but it's legal. You can do it. You can do it. Try burning a flag in Iran or China or Russia. Ooh, you will disappear. Disappear. And yet, people will protest and burn the flag and call the U.S. fascist while doing the same thing. You'd get jailed in an actual fascist state. No, we're not fascist, or you wouldn't be doing it. Marching through cities screaming, F the police. You can do it. You can do it here. You can get a permit to do it. You can get a social media following if you do it. Probably even get an interview on TV and people will hold you up as fearless. And the police will protect you while you're doing it. Try that in North Korea or Egypt. Nah. No, you'll be picked up, interrogated. You can even be tortured. Sometimes if you're lucky. However, demonizing America's policemen as stormtroopers or jackbooted thugs, hey, they'll protect you while you're doing it. You can do it in public, on camera, without consequence. I can disagree with it, but it's legal in the United States. Also, the whole LGBTQ plus rights. Hey, you can do all. What gets me is you wear this shirt, LGBTQ rights, while saying Free Palestine. You can be openly gay in the United States. You can be openly gay and say Free Palestine, while if you're in Palestine and you're openly gay, they'll kill you. Well, they'll imprison you or flog you, but they can put you to death for being gay. You're saying Free Palestine. And if you said that in Palestine, what's the irony of it? Yeah, it's crazy. I remember I was at an outdoor festival not long ago, and a girl singer got up and said Free Palestine. Wait a minute, we're at an outdoor festival. Didn't that what happened on October 7th? An outdoor festival? Yeah. Hey, sometimes we get emotional. We absolutely, and gay marriage, all that stuff, that's legal in America. Other places, no, you have to hide it. Everybody's in the closet because you come out of the closet, you're going to get persecuted legally. America's not so bad. And the college students talking about oppression and free speech and all that. You've got it. You've got it. So many things that I'm grateful for, I tell you. In criticism, you have the right to criticism. I welcome criticism in the realm of we need to work on this. We need to work on this. But when you do this to America versus other places, it's like I started with, hey, all in all, it's a good meal. There are things that could be better. We're exceptional, but we're not perfect. There are examples where if you pick a highlight reel for a certain country, okay, oh, that looks nice. Go visit there or do a little check-in and see how it is to live there. You're seeing their highlight reel. Also, we don't notice a certain quality until it's gone. The things we take for granted on a day-to-day basis, a lot of hidden luxuries in the United States. So I just want to affirm gratitude and how grateful we should be here, because recognizing these advantages is a step toward protecting them. We're not flawless. We're just freer. Gratitude without awareness becomes entitlement. And awareness without gratitude becomes bitterness. And I think there are a lot of people bitter. We debate here out loud with what other countries, they'll just whisper behind a closed door. We can say it out loud. The fact that we can say it makes us freer. We don't always get it right, though. But we have the freedom to try it again and to fix it and to speak up. Don't take it for granted. People don't risk their lives to leave America. They risk their lives to get here. And the U.S. is the only place where your story isn't supposed to be written for you. You write it. Patriotism isn't pretending that we're perfect. It's refusing to trade what's right just to feel righteous. Ooh, how we like to feel righteous. That's a criticism, but that's people, not America. If you want to see America's value, stop watching the news. Stop watching the news. And look at our history. Not revisionist history, but our real history. And then look at the border. Come on. Most of the world would love to have our problems. I've always said I wouldn't trade my problems with anybody. Same way. Most of the world would love our problems. So we don't have to worship America. And that's not what I'm doing here. But you should be honest enough to admit, if you woke up somewhere else tomorrow, if you grew up in America and you woke up somewhere else tomorrow, you'd miss it eventually. Not the politics, not the headlines, but the chance to live and speak and build and fail and get up again based on your decisions. You'd miss it. So, little patriotic deal. I didn't want to get too negative, but I am grateful. And I don't want to have to experience a loss of any freedom that I have. I don't use all my freedoms, but I don't keep anybody from using theirs either. I sure don't want to learn what it's like to not have them. So, happy 4th of July. If you're not in America now, I'm not bragging. I'm just proud. Okay? So I appreciate you tuning in. Please hit me up. Tell me what you think. David@otalks.com, David@otalks.com. Let me know what you think. Have a great 4th of July. Please celebrate. You'll hear Lee Greenwood over and over, which is great. But hey, enjoy it. You have the freedom to enjoy it. So thanks so much, and thanks for O Talking with Dave. And all I got to say to that is giddy.